Welcome to the Ripple Effect by the Alliance. We are committed to raising the frequency of our planet. We'll discuss hot topics, share practical tools and sacred frequencies to reveal the magic in your life. Come laugh, cry, and have fun with us.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Ripple Effect. I am Sarah. I'm here with my co-hosts Hannah and Stacia. And today we're excited to celebrate World Water Day. When you're listening to this, it will be World Water Day. So we're going to chat a little bit about water, the importance of water, interesting things about water, and how you can help make an impact in the world and create a ripple effect. So I am going to, right off the bat, hand this over to the beautiful Hannah because she can speak so beautifully and she's taught Stacia and I a lot about water. And yeah, I know she has a wealth of knowledge for all of you. A well. We'll go to the well.
A well.
I like that. As I drink my water.
Hello, everybody. Well, no pun intended.
Yeah.
I am into sound healing, in case you haven't heard me say it a million times, but I have been doing research on the effects of sound, and it started around water for me. I'm also a Pisces, and in my chart, there's literally only water and fire. I have no earth, I have no air, there's none of that. Only these two elements are in my makeup. And so for me, water has always been extremely important, even growing up without even knowing why. It's as we grow older and we start finding out more information, things start to fall into place and start to make sense. Now, about 20, 30 years ago, sounds horrible, about 25 years ago, let's say, for the sake of not going past the third decade, I saw this movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? And if you haven't watched it, please, if you're into quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics, different levels of reality, simultaneous realities going on parallel, it will explain so much to you. But I came across the work of Masaru Emoto in that movie, and it made such an impact in me. And that was the first seed that was planted in me about sound and the power of words. And it turns out that this Japanese, I guess, researcher, because people would make fun of him and call him a quack because he was like Dr. Masaru Emoto, and people would say he's not a doctor and all these things. He started being maligned a lot because he spoke about water, how powerful it is, and how our words can impact the water, and how the water holds memory. And what he started doing, and if you're interested in his work, you can Google a book called Messages from Water. And what he did is he would take droplets or water and put beautiful words, so would tape them, put them in a jar, tape beautiful words on top, like love, peace, whatnot, and then would take a droplet, freeze it, and then look through the microscope, and he would see that these beautiful, gorgeous crystals would form. And peace would have its own shape, love would have its own shape, and every single word would form a different crystal. However, if he played, for example, acid rock, or put words like murder and violence and hate, what would happen is when the droplet would freeze, it would not create crystals. It would create blobs, much in the way that cancer cells look. Okay, so that absolutely blew my mind, because then you start making the connection without being told, right? And I was like, holy cow, we're 80% water. I am made of water. What words am I using regularly that are making an impact in my life? And at that point, my mind was blown. Then in my meditation, I kept getting the word, hearing this word solfeggio. That started happening around the same time that I watched this movie. And I remember we had just moved into this tiny, tiny little Tudor style home in Miami, in Coral Gables. And it was like a dollhouse. But I remember having these meditations in this house, and the word solfeggio kept coming to me. And I was like, what does that mean? Solfeggio is just my vocal exercises, because I was a singer. And I started doing research and found out that the Gregorian chants were done around these sacred frequencies, these healing frequencies. And then Masaru Emoto kept talking about how the water holds memory. So throughout the years, my work with water, with sound, has evolved. I got into a period of time where I wanted to prove that theory. So I created this bucket, and it was a painter's bucket, and I ordered some very thin latex and sands in different colors, because I was working with the chakras. And I had these PVC pipes that I would like weave into I would cut holes and weave into the painter's bucket, so that the PVC pipe would have an elbow that would be looking up and facing the latex. And I would sing through this pipe, and I would put this frequency, and I would tune my body to this frequency. And I was vibrating to that frequency. My muscles, because I had a dance training, and there's this technique where you learn to vibrate your bones even, and your muscles. So I'm like, I'm going to use this dance technique, and I'm going to use these frequencies, and I'm going to tune my entire body and make myself a vibrating frequency of powerful magnitude. And I am going to vibrate people into being tuned, right? And their chakras being in tune and flowing at the right frequency, so that their own healing mechanism would get activated and they could heal themselves. So this was my theory, right? So I started tuning my body. And then when I'm like already feeling like I'm vibrating, my entire being is vibrating to this frequency, I sing the frequency through this PVC pipe, and shapes would start forming. What I found so amazing is that if I would sing, let's say 396, I would get flowers, literally the shape of flowers. Maybe we can post them on our Instagram, because I still have those pictures. And I would get a flower, and then I would switch frequencies. I'd hear the frequency, tune myself, switch the frequency to, let's say, 417, and a couple embracing would show up. And then I'd go to 528, and I'd get this this sacred geometry happening. And then if I go to 600, I get a very, very specific shape. But then when I went back to 528, I got a hexagon. And we'll talk a little bit about the hexagonal shape of and the structured water. And so I would go back to the other frequencies. What blew my mind is if I sang the 400 hertz frequency again, it would go back to the embracing couple. And if I went back to 300, it went back to the flowers. And what I would do is I'd sprinkle some sand, and I would go like this, just like make a mess, and start singing. And the sand would start shaping itself to these figures. And in my mind, I was like, holy cow, if I can do this to sand, how powerful are we? I felt like, my God, sound is like a weapon or the most healing thing ever, depending on how we use it. And I realized how powerful we are to hurt someone, because if we're doing this to sand, what is happening to the water in our bodies when we're directing mean words to someone, or when we're saying words of love and compassion to them? How is their water responding? How is our water responding to our own thoughts and words? Right. So for years, I was like, I've been working on this, and I was like, have I lost my marbles? Like at some point I would be like, I think I need to check myself into a mental institution, because it was just too much. And then the attacks on Masaru Emoto, and the attacks on the people who were saying this. And now more and more people are starting to understand. Like blood and water are the two elements or two compositions in this planet that humans have not been able to replicate. Like the only way to get blood is from another human. We can't, like scientists have not figured out how to replicate blood or water. So how profound is that, right? And now they're understanding that the water holds memory from whatever it has touched it. So when we're taking all these meds, contraceptives, antibiotics, chemos, even radiation, how it affects the water in our body, right? It burns you on the inside. It raises the frequency of the water. What is it doing? Is it evaporating the water? And we're like, what is happening, right? So you see where my mind goes. But then we pee, and that water that we're excreting has all these residues that go into the water system, that get to processing plants, and they will remove the larger particles out of the water. But those memories, even if they remove the element, the memory will still remain. So even if we're drinking filtered water, we're drinking the memory of wherever this water's life has taken it. So what are we putting into our bodies? And then it begs the question of, okay, so people who are going through panic and anxiety, people who are infertile, people who have all kinds of health issues, is it genetic or is it epigenetics, right? Or is it the environment? And is it the water that we're drinking, the food that we're eating, the lack of minerals? And then we're like, okay, so what do we do? Okay, because what do we do? Because if we just focus on all the things that are wrong, we can just sit here and end up with an emotional breakdown or an emotional meltdown, because you start to think of all the implication, and it's like you can't, one starts to feel powerless. So at one point I was like, okay, well, this is too overwhelming, but what can I do? Well, I can use the frequencies, which is what we do, right? I've created a water that's called Clean Slate, which I play these frequencies to, and I sing to, and I erase like a whiteboard. I erase all of its memory. And then I'm like, because the universe detests a void, right? If I just leave it, it'll get imprinted with whatever it's going to pull in. So I, by choice, imprinted with whatever frequency I decide. So I have a water that I called liquid love, and that I imprinted with the memory of 528 hertz. Then I started learning that the perfect structure of water is hexagonal, right? And it's not a blob, it's actually a geometric shape. And that if you take in structured water, it can be much more hydrating than if you're taking a blob in and drinking a blob that will be technically feeding a cancer, right? Now I have to do a disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a scientist. This is all my own personal experience and opinion. So I'm not wanting to get into trouble with any of the pharma people. Thank you very much. Who might believe otherwise. But it's like you start putting two and two together. And for me, it seems all very logical, right? So it's like, if I don't want to take in this memory, and I know my very amazing, expensive filter cannot remove all of that memory regardless, but I can, right? I can sing to it. I can love it. I can give it the intention. And then through those experiments, my logo was born, because when I hit 528, the shape of the sand took the shape of a hexagon, and it had little hexagons inside. And I was like, oh my God, this is what water should be like. It should be structured. It should be hexagonal. And that's like literally my logo for Vocal Tapestry is this image that I just went and made it more hexagonal and everything, because it was very rounded corners, and we'll post it. But it was very, it did have the 6 sides to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm onto something with this. Because when we sing to our bodies, when we say beautiful words, we can structure our own water in our body, and we can unleash our own healing mechanism for perfect health. On World Water Day, sing to your water. All you gotta do is take a glass of water and give it love.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love that we talked about the memory of water, because every week I do an astrology reading with tarot cards, and the cups represent water, and water really represents our emotions. So as you go through the cups, it's these levels of our emotions and things that can come out, or potentials that can happen, where the depths of the water, like it's just amazing, like how everything just really ties together, as far as when you're willing to see it and understand it for something that a lot of people aren't going to look at it the way that we're introducing it today. Is like, it's holding these memories and it's holding these experiences, and you have this ability to tap into that and change it. And you always have this ability to change your emotions. And I feel like people, a lot of times they feel like they get trapped. They allow themselves to get trapped in those emotions, because they don't understand that they can take that initiative to set those intentions to change the trajectory that they're headed on. They just stay in those emotions, and then those emotions keep them in the situations that they keep finding themselves back in. And it's just really interesting how it all ties together. This memory, this water holding these memories, and how we hold on to so much, and a lot of times it's unknowingly. So very interesting.
And the memory in the water is in us, and it came from generations, because we're gestated, and we have a water bag. We literally are grown in vitro. inside our mother's womb, right? The water break. Like,
Mhm.
oh, my water broke. Why? Because the baby is in water.
Yeah.
It's like a jar of pickles.
Sure.
Okay. I know it.
Little pickle baby.
No, but really we're
I like
grown in
pickles.
water,
Yeah.
and it's like water is in us, it's through us. Have you guys ever had a dream, one of those vivid dreams that you're swimming in the ocean or whatever, and you're in the water and you're breathing? Or was it just me? I would have that recurring dream. I'd
Yeah.
always be in water, and I'd be living my life in the water and breathing the water and just like normal,
Yeah.
right? And then you think, it's like, could it be? And then it's like, very possibly, because we are made of it.
Yeah. And I think like having an appreciation for it, because one of the things I know we wanted to talk about with everyone was like, not everybody, like, it's so simple for me to pick up my bottle here, right? And drink water, or go to my tap and drink water. And there's so many people who they don't even have access to the water in the first place to like do what they got to do, or clean water, right?
I remember being part of a project I was so blessed to work in. I'm not going to say that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it because this was years ago, but I'd rather not. But a big, big company that uses a lot of toxic chemicals in their products, but still had I think had the awareness that they couldn't be doing this to the water, and eventually it would come to an end somehow, and not a very good ending for us. And so they had their scientists develop these little powder. It came in a little envelope,
Yeah.
almost like, like an emergency, or those things within sea. And it had these powder, and you put it in the dirty water, and within 3 minutes the water was clean, and they
Yeah.
were able to actually drink.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. People in Africa, I mean, what happens is there's a lot of blindness because they drink all the parasites. There's so many parasites in the water that they're drinking. And there's so many blind people and blind children because they've drank this parasitic water, and it goes to their brain and it goes to their optic nerve and stuff. So yes, it's important that we bring awareness to it. And you give to this organization, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm gonna share it after. It's called Charity Water. And I'll post like the link to their website and that, and I give monthly to them, and they help provide water to people who don't have access to the people like I mentioned who are, walking miles to get it. And they provide them with like the resources to have it sustainable so that it can be fresh and clean, which allows
And they help them build wells, no?
yeah, exactly. And then that leads to more opportunities, right? Like they're obviously going to be healthier, and maybe they're going to be able to go have have education and different roles, as opposed to like work. Like imagine having to worry about that, right?
Well, what happens is they spend days looking for water, or if a woman has to spend her day going to
Not going
fetch
to school.
water and come back with some water for her family, if you have a well now, how many extra hours do you have? Maybe you can do handicrafts. Maybe you can start earning a living for your family. Maybe you can elevate your life in a different way, because it's like that. I think it's a Maslow pyramid of like basic needs, right? It's like once our basic needs are covered, then we start getting into the arts. Then we can be creative. Then we can do all these marvelous things. But until we have our basic needs met, which is shelter, food and water and clothing, until those things are met, we're not able to become artists and do all these things that are just for the mind and for the spirit and become spiritual. It's like, no, if I have to be sowing the seeds and picking the food and doing all these things, it's going to take away from my ability to do other more airy fairy things that we get to do.
Yeah. And like when I was checking out their website for our conversation, you hit the nail on the head. It's the women. It says 72% of the water is collected. It's the women who are collecting it, right? So if they're spending all that time doing that, they don't get to start the businesses and do the improvements to themselves that they want to do because they're so focused on that. And
it's survival.
Yeah, I think exactly, they're in survival mode. Yeah, so we'll share how you can help there if you choose to. And now Hannah, you have a special surprise for people. Yes, we're really excited to share.
Well, we have our theme song that we use, or I don't know if we can call it a song. Our theme sounds for the podcast is a composition that I made called Journey Home. And it is charged actually with a 528 hertz frequency and other frequencies of love and compassion, but it's mostly love, magic, and miracles. And to celebrate and commemorate World Water Day, we thought we would give any one of you who would want to have it, who would want to listen to it and play it for themselves or play it for their plants or their water or just their home in general, for imbuing their home with beautiful frequencies, that we would gift it to them. But Sarah, explain to them how they can get it.
Okay, yes. So if you subscribe, comment, or let's add following us on Instagram. So I'll post that in the show notes. If you do any of those things, we are going to send you
a link so you can download
sound, not song.
Our theme, whatever. And you can
awesome.
play this piece to your water before you drink it. Yes. Just make sure that if you take water with you at night and you're drinking throughout the night, and then in the morning you wake up and drink whatever was out there, just know that the water is so amazing and so loving to us that what it does is it picks up all of the energies from that are surrounding you, especially the negative energies. Yes. Because the water, what it does, it's trying to transmute it into something better or love or whatever it is. And then we go ahead and drink it. It's like drinking gray water. So cover your water.
Yeah.
And what we do is we place it on top of the logo, right? Or place it on top of a tree of life or a seed of life or a sacred geometry that you love, and just place your glass on an image that will just structure your water into these beautiful crystals.
Yes, and we're going to share the logo.
It's just so important.
Shout out. Hannah has a whole course on water. So just saying, you want to go deeper into that. Okay, Stacia.
Oh,
the day for us.
Quote of the day.
Oh, so pretty.
Oh. Originally, I had found a Henry David Thoreau quote that said, "Life in us is like the water in a river," but I didn't think that was good enough. I'm like, that's good, but I can do better. So then I found this one from a Lebanese American poet from way back yonder. And he said, "In one drop of water are found all the secrets of all the oceans. In one aspect of you are found all the aspects of existence."
Oh, wow.
Oh, and that is Khalil Gibran Jr. He is a Lebanese American artist, poet, and writer.
Khalil Gibran Jr. I had no idea of his existence, but I have read the poet many a time.
Ooh.
By Khalil Gibran, and it's if you haven't read it, it is a must in this lifetime. Really, it is so he views life in such a beautiful way, and he explains life to you in such a beautiful way.
And from somebody that was born in the 1800s, it's incredible how advanced so many of these people were in their time periods.
Yeah. Makes us wonder what we've been doing.
Exactly.
Like,
it's the water,
listen to
Hannah.
me.
It's the water. We got to do better with the water.
We could change the world if everybody just listened to us.
Seriously.
Change your water, change the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. You just listen to this ripple effect and you create your own ripple effect, and then all of a sudden everything is wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. And today, since it's World Water Day, just honor the water that you have in your tap. Honor the rivers, honor the oceans. If you're by the ocean, go to the ocean, go to the river. And if not, honor the water within you, honor the rain, honor the water in general. I remember a time when I took my daughter, when she was around probably 16 or 17, her and her boyfriend were with me on World Water Day. We were in Manhattan, and I made them go to the river with me, to the Hudson River, and we held hands, and we just started oming and saying, and just going through the vowels. And I said, we cannot stop. So the sound has to be continuous. So we would be taking interspersed breaths. So we could keep, like, at least two of us were holding the sound the entire time. So one would take a breath and then keep going. One would take a breath, and we choreograph our breaths so that we could keep the and just like, and sending our love to the water. And I kid you not, these kids almost passed out and looked at me with big eyes like plates. When the current of the river was going literally from north to south, and all of a sudden it did a perpendicular turn, and the water started coming to us, like horizontal to the current.
I got goosebumps.
And these two looked at me, and they were like, they couldn't tell me what the fuck just happened, because they were having to continue with the but their eyes said it all. They're like, what is happening right now? And we kept singing, and the water kept coming to us, coming to us, coming to us, coming to us. And after half an hour, we stopped, and the water just went back into the current.
Wow.
And so for us, or for them, it was proof that the water can hear you, can feel you, and will love you right back.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're feeling like you're not having love, and you're depressed or you're anxious, send some love to your water. If you don't have it in you, put it in you with the theme of with our piece, right? With our composition. Yes. Play it to the water in your body. Allow your body to get infused with these frequencies, and it will elevate your state. And I can promise you that.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Hannah. Beautiful way to end the episode. I'll share the charity website that I give to. If you're interested in supporting them, they do a lot of great work. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you all on the next episode. Happy World Water Day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to The Ripple Effect by The Alliance with Jana Martinez,
Stacia Stove,
and Sarah Jane Lita. We hope you're now vibing high and ready to create your own ripple.
Drop a comment or email to let us know the ripple effect that you are creating.
Music by our very own Jana Martinez, and music production by Onel Moulet.
Follow us on Instagram at The Ripple Effect Pod for more high vibration content. Please rate and review us wherever you listen. Until next time.